Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 6. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Welcome everyone. I'm Whitney Ward. Much of the inland Northwest is expected to experience very high winds tomorrow. There's a wind advisory in effect starting tomorrow at 2 a.m. and it lasts all the way until tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Tom Sherry. Tom, how strong of winds are we talking here?
Well, we're talking 50-mile-an-hour winds here in the Spokane area, but some areas of the Palouse, northern Idaho, could see wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. Everywhere you see shaded in kind of this brown right here indicates where we could see that those very, very strong wind gusts. Again, that is a wind advisory. We also have a flood advisory in effect across the Spokane area and into the Palouse. That's because of all the snow melt and, of course, the increased amount of rainfall that we've received since midnight. And more rain is on the way, by the way, later tonight. Right now, we're at 43 degrees. That also adds to the flooding problem because we're melting a whole lot of that mountain snow. Winds have picked up now out of the southeast at 16 miles per hour. You can see the other winds around the region, really not a big deal. Again, we expect to see the winds late tonight and more likely in the overnight hours. Again, after midnight is when we should see the strongest winds. Now, the first round of rain is over, but look at on the west side of the state. That rain is headed our way. By 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock tonight, I think you're going to see a whole lot of rain beginning to fall here in the inland Northwest. And very windy weather as well, with an overnight low of only 39 degrees. That means rising freezing levels, and tomorrow's high in the upper 40s. But if there's a silver lining, we should see drier conditions tomorrow and even some sunshine by mid-morning continuing into the afternoon. I'll take a look at the wind tracker futurecast for you, tell you when the strongest winds are going to occur in our area. All that's coming up in a few minutes.
We'll talk to you then, Tom. Thank you very much. And as Tom mentioned, the winds are forecasted to increase starting tonight.
Yeah, we turn now to meteorologist Thomas Patrick, who is out talking about the current conditions that could actually make this a very damaging event. Thomas.
Yeah, as you heard from Tom, we got the wind advisory for tonight and most of the day for tomorrow. As of right now, we're getting these gusts of wind occasionally. These gusts have been pretty strong, but have been just kind of every once in a while, and not quite steady just yet, but we know that that's going to increase and accelerate into the evening tonight and certainly through tomorrow morning. So we'll be watching at who gets the most severe winds. As Tom mentioned, up to 60 miles per hour winds would be considered severe for our area. So there's really two regions that can see the most tree damage or power outages. One would be in a heavily wooded area, kind of like in Manitou Park where we're at right now. Some of the trees have been catching those winds, especially the pines that still have the pine needles on them. Even just a few tree branches, if they fall in the wrong place or on power lines, would cause power outages. But don't forget the areas that don't have trees, those open plains like the Palouse where the wind can flow without any friction and a little bit faster. Those areas can see the most severe winds as well. And of course, those isolated areas like power poles could certainly take some damage as well. So that's what we'll be tracking for the next 12 to 24 hours. Reporting from Spokane's South Hill, I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much. And Vista is also preparing for the storm already. We're told crews have warehouse supplies in place. Assessment teams and wire guard teams are standing by to keep people away from downed power lines. And tree crews are ready to deploy wherever the winds hit the hardest. The utility company also wants to warn customers if widespread outages do happen, restoration likely will not happen until after the storm has passed. And depending on the severity, it could be several days before they can get to your area.
Best to prep for the high winds tomorrow. 11 crews are now on call 24/7 and are ready to be dispatched and restore power as quickly and as safely as possible, the company says. The company already has 50 miles of work that was done on placing power lines underground in an attempt to decrease the chance of downed power lines.
Stay away from downed power lines. Always assume that downed lines are energized, even if they're sagging or broken.
They say to report an outage if you've lost power and to also report any trees that look to have the potential to damage those power lines.
We have some breaking news for you here at the 6 o'clock hour. One of the inmates who escaped from the Okanogan County Jail last week has now been caught. 52-year-old Christian White was arrested in Portland. He was arrested on a warrant for second-degree escape with nationwide extradition. With White today, he was 67 years old as well.
So the other person who was arrested with them, she was arrested for second-degree rendering criminal assistance. She was also arrested for criminal conspiracy for her alleged role in helping the inmates escape jail. White and Lancaster are being extradited back to Okanogan County. The other inmate, this gentleman here, 28-year-old Christopher Whitman, was not found. He is described as 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing about 170 pounds, with blue eyes and blonde hair. Anyone with information about his whereabouts is urged to call law enforcement immediately. The Washington State Commissioner of Public Lands is asking the state to invest in improved wildfire response, forest restoration, and community resilience. The bill introduced the legislature today requests $1.25 million every 2 years. During last year's wildfire season, more than 800,000 acres burned in more than 1,600 fires, and 298 homes were destroyed. That includes the destruction in the town of Malden. Commissioner of Public Lands Hillary Franz says the bill is a blueprint for creating self-reliance.
For years, we've relied on luck and hope instead of fully funding a comprehensive wildfire strategy. But hope will not prevent wildfires, and luck does not put them out.
Dedicating funding would add 100 new firefighters, aircraft, and fire detection technology. It would also fully fund and accelerate DNR's efforts to restore natural wildlife resistance to more than 1 million acres of forest across state, federal, tribal, and private lands. Lawmakers expect strong support for the bill.
He just wasn't John.
Something wasn't right after Grant County Sheriff's Deputy John Melvin contracted COVID-19. That's according to his colleagues. Melvin passed away in early December.
Our Morgan Trout talked with the sheriff's office about the deputy today, as well as the legacy he leaves behind.
The men and women of the Grant County Sheriff's Office consider each other family. They often spend more time on the job than they do at home.
He spent nearly 36 years of giving back to his community, and he didn't even get to enjoy his time with his family. So it hit us hard.
When Deputy John Melvin didn't answer his phone on December 11th, Chief Deputy Derek Gregg had a gut feeling something was wrong. A week earlier, Melvin was diagnosed with COVID-19. He had taken some days off work, which was rare for him to do.
You knew that John was going to be there and he was going to do his job to the fullest. He was probably the first guy in, last guy to leave. And you didn't have to ask yourself, hey, I wonder if John Melvin's coming to work today.
Fellow deputies went to check on the 60-year-old and found he had passed away at home. Deputy Gregg tracks the COVID-19 cases within the force and had been checking on Melvin. He did not know of any underlying conditions.
He kept telling me that he was fine, and I took his word, guys are guys, and hey, I'm good. I don't need anything. And hindsight, I kind of kicked myself.
If you could say anything to him right now, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Go to the doctor. If I could talk to him one more time, I would have said, John, I'm coming down there, or I'm sending the ambulance, because you're going to the hospital. That's what I'd probably tell him.
He said the sheriff counts his death as a line of duty death, since it's likely he contracted the virus while working. Melvin was a little more than 1 month away from retirement.
He just left that legacy of hard work, and when he comes to work, he gives it his all, and he doesn't go home until he knows that John Melvin has put in a hard day of work and made sure that he's gotten everything that he needs to get done.
Melvin.
And we, of course, thank his family for their sacrifice and thank him for his service. Happening tonight as part of the local push to get kids back in school, Spokane Public Schools hosting a webinar for parents of 3rd and 4th graders. They'll be discussing the phase-in plan for those students. It all starts at 6:30 tonight, so you can find the link to that meeting directly on the SPS website. It's there right now.
Meantime, the Central Valley School District is discussing ways to bring students back for in-person learning. While official data is still being worked out, the goal is to bring all grade levels back. Leaders say it plans to follow guidance from the Spokane Regional Health District. It plans to bring back 4th through 6th grade this month and 7th through 12th. That'll follow shortly after. Families will also have the choice to continue with distance learning.
Coming up here on KREM 2 News at 6 tonight, leaders in Idaho say they're ready to move to the next phase of the COVID-19 vaccination process. We've got more on what that means coming up right after the break.